Some stories seem to come straight out of a fairy tale, yet they are completely real and, at the same time, unbelievable. In a small town in rural Russia, there lives a man named Sergei, who, to any visitor, may seem like just another animal lover. However, Sergei is not a typical animal enthusiast. His best friend, the companion who is always by his side, is none other than a bear. This bear, named Stepan, is nearly 23 years old, and although his immense size and wild instincts may be intimidating at first, he is, in fact, a creature of great affection and kindness. Stepan was not found in the wild nor rescued from a zoo. He was born into a small circus, where he spent his childhood in harsh conditions before being adopted by Sergei, who, unlike many others, saw the bear as a friend, not a threat. The bond between Sergei and Stepan began when Sergei saw the bear in a state of neglect at the circus. After witnessing the bear's plight, Sergei decided to bring him home, offering a better life. Since then, the two have lived together, sharing quiet moments in a simple house. To many, having a bear in the house might seem unimaginable, but for Sergei, Stepan is almost like a son. They understand each other in a way that no one could have expected. Sergei taught the bear to behave in a civil manner. Stepan learned tricks, how to act in public, and even how to interact gently with others. However, it is in their private moments that the relationship between the two truly shines. Sergei and Stepan often go for long walks in the fields around their house, where the bear, with his heavy stride, seems calm and content. Sometimes, Stepan lies beside Sergei while he plays soft tunes on his guitar, as if listening attentively. Sergei and Stepan's story makes us reflect on the boundary between wild instincts and domestication, the capacity for affection in animals, and, more profoundly, the meaning of true friendship. This unusual relationship, which began with an unlikely adoption, has flourished over the years, creating an unbreakable bond where man and bear have become not just companions, but a family. And although many might argue that this is unnatural, Sergei and Stepan have shown that when respect and love are present, the barriers between humans and the animal world can be overcome. The impact of Stepan on Sergei's life. Stepan's presence in Sergei's life wasn't just a catalyst for change for the man, but for the entire community around them. In a region where life was simple and traditions were passed down through generations, the friendship between a man and a bear became something emblematic. Sergei, who had once been a solitary man, began to be viewed through a different lens. His relationship with Stepan sparked growing curiosity among the townspeople, who often sought him out to learn how he managed to raise such a large and wild animal, and what motivated them to live together so harmoniously. For many, Sergei became a kind of mysterious figure, almost a living legend. Some didn't believe it was possible to fully domesticate such a creature, and they saw Sergei as an example of courage, patience, and compassion. Others, more skeptical, thought it was dangerous and irresponsible to keep a bear, an animal of such size and power. Rumors spread that the bear might become aggressive or lose control, especially as he aged and his natural instincts grew stronger. A small group of villagers even tried to convince Sergei to separate from Stepan, suggesting that he send the bear to a zoo or some animal rehabilitation center. But Sergei, with his firm resolve, refused to give in. To him, Stepan was more than just an animal. He was his friend, his companion, an integral part of his life. The bear was not a threat, but a being that, with patience and love, had learned to coexist peacefully with a human. Sergei never forced Stepan to do anything against his nature. On the contrary, he respected the bear's autonomy and always provided an environment where Stepan could maintain his freedom and express his true personality. At that time, Sergei decided to share his story with anyone who wanted to listen. He wanted the community to understand that the bond between him and Stepan was not a mere curiosity or whim. It was a relationship that, like any other genuine friendship, required mutual respect, trust, and time. He began inviting villagers to visit his home and meet Stepan up close. When people saw the bear in person, the once feared giant with brown fur and piercing eyes, but calm and peaceful next to Sergei, many changed their minds. What had once seemed impossible and dangerous became something admirable. The routine of Sergei and Stepan. As time went on, Sergei and Stepan's routine became well established. Even as the bear grew into an adult, Stepan continued to display an unexpectedly docile behavior, surprising those who saw him for the first time. Sergei, for his part, continued to care for the bear with devotion. They woke early each morning, when the sun was still low on the horizon, and went for walks through the surrounding forests. Sergei loved the stillness of the morning, the scent of the cold earth, and the mist that covered the trees. Stepan, with his heavy steps, always seemed to be ahead, leading the way as Sergei followed silently, admiring the bear's power and beauty. When winter came, the landscape transformed. Snow covered everything around them, creating a pure, white mantle. The trees, their branches coated in ice, formed a breathtaking scene, but life also became more challenging. The intense cold required Sergei to be even more careful with Stepan. He prepared a warm, comfortable shelter for the bear near the house, where Stepan could seek refuge from the snowstorms. During the winter, they spent a lot of time together indoors, by the fireplace. Sergei would play the guitar, and Stepan, with his attentive eyes, seemed to listen to the soft melodies, as if he understood the music and felt his friend's emotions. Daily life also involved small tasks. Sergei, never a lazy man, took care of the house, the garden, and the other animals, but always with the feeling that something special was by his side. Stepan, despite his size, behaved with surprising calmness. He would lie next to Sergei as he prepared meals or worked in the garden. When the days were warmer, Sergei and Stepan ventured on longer trails, exploring nature in its purest form. Sometimes, Sergei and the bear would climb a hill, where they could see the full expanse of the Russian landscape, with its endless fields and dense forests. It was in those moments that Sergei reflected on his journey with Stepan, thinking about how life, with all its surprises and difficulties, had united them in a unique way. Stepan's growth. Living with the world as the years went by, Stepan became not just a pet, but a symbolic figure of the region. The people of the town began to respect the story of Sergei and Stepan more, and many saw the bear as a symbol of the connection between man and nature. Children would come from nearby towns to meet Stepan, and Sergei, always patient, allowed them to see the bear up close, though with caution. He would always explain that, although Stepan was friendly, he was still a bear and deserved respect. Sergei taught the children the importance of respecting animals and nature. One of the most touching experiences was when a small group of young filmmakers came to Sergei's house to shoot a documentary about exotic animals. They were fascinated by the idea of a man living with a bear, and Sergei, with his characteristic hospitality, agreed to participate. The crew filmed Sergei and Stepan's routine, from their walks in the forest to their quiet moments indoors, capturing the beauty and calm that existed in their relationship. In the end, the documentary was broadcast across Russia, and soon Sergei and Stepan's story spread, touching the hearts of many people. Stepan's aging. With the passing of time, Stepan, like any living being, began to age. His movements, which were once swift and agile, became slower. His fur grew thinner, and his eyesight was not what it used to be. Sergei noticed these changes and became more concerned about his friend's well-being. Although Stepan never showed signs of aggression, Sergei knew the bear was getting older, and that, even though the bond between them was immeasurable, time was inevitable. Sergei began to dedicate more time to caring for Stepan, making sure he was treated with as much love and care as possible. He adjusted Stepan's shelter to ensure the bear was more comfortable and less exposed to the harsh winter cold. The walks in the forest, which had once been long and intense, were now shorter and gentler. Sergei understood that Stepan no longer had the same energy, so he adapted their routine to allow the bear to grow old with dignity, without stress or pressure. And so, the friendship between Sergei and Stepan, built over decades, continued, strong and true, as the two faced the inevitable passage of time together. More than just a relationship between man and animal, what existed between them was a true friendship, one that transcended any barriers of species or instinct.